Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and my company is 10 Golden Rules. And today we're going to talk about the ABCs of SEO. We're going to simplify search engine optimization, one of the most mystical parts of digital marketing. And I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll get started. Thank you all for being here today. This presentation, as I mentioned, is called the ABCs of SEO, search engine optimization. And SEO is super complex, and there's over 600 different factors in Google's mathematical algorithm. But what I'd like to do, and I think one of my skills, is simplifying these complex topics and really giving you the core functions that you need to get your website to rank on Google, rank on the search engines. So without further ado, a little bit about me, and then we'll get into the ABCs of SEO. My books so far: 10 Golden Rules, 10 Free Internet Marketing Strategies. My co-author, Matt the Intern, and I wrote The Guide to Digital Marketing, and I wrote a book called Digital Future about the emergence of AI, Bitcoin, and blockchain. And my new book, if you can see here in my background, is called Internet Marketing for Law Firms. We're into chapter 8 or 9, so this will be coming out in the fall, and that's the fall of 2021. If you're watching this sometime in 2023, please give me a ping on social media and let me know that the future is calling the past, or the past, back to the future, whatever. Anyways, I come from a place called Winnipeg, Canada. One day last year, we were colder than Mars, but we got smart. My wife, Bonnie, and I moved to Boca Raton, Florida. There's Bonnie with our dog, Parker. We love it down here in Florida, and we became US citizens, so we're real happy about that. My background, I worked for Coca-Cola and got to do marketing on one of the brands that had been marketed for over 100 years. It was a fascinating challenge with so much history and so many projects that had already been done. And I also worked for Sprint in the early days of the internet, getting our customers their first emails and getting our business clients their first websites. I also worked for both the ad agency and as a director of marketing for McDonald's restaurants. And I got to sell some of the most delicious and high-fat foods in the world. And after selling some of the good stuff, I went immediately to ediets.com. And ediets was a very interesting story. We were a startup in 2002, and we were advertising on AOL, MSN, and Yahoo, running banner ads. And in those days, Google was still in beta. Mark Zuckerberg was the Facebook founder, was still in high school, and we were spending $40 million in banner ads to generate $60 million in sales. So I learned a ton about internet marketing, both at Sprint in the digital world, and then on a hardcore, driving $40 million worth of traffic to a website, doing A/B testing, running different sales funnels, creating an e-newsletter. And so that's where my history started before we started 10 Golden Rules. So 10 Golden Rules is a digital marketing agency. We work mostly with law firms, and we're based in Boca Raton, Florida. And we've been doing this for 18 years. We've been featured in the Wall Street Journal and on Fox News. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the ABCs of SEO, the architecture, backlinks, and content that make up SEO. So SEO, search engine optimization. So really, what it's all about is the SERPs, search engine results pages, and this is a SERP. And if you do a search for personal injury attorneys near me, here's what the results look like today. The brand new Google screened or local service ads comes up right at the top. And we did a webinar all about Google screened. So if you want to learn about this new cutting edge, have a look for that webinar on our website. The next area is pay-per-click, paid advertising. And the pay-per-click, excuse me for 1 sec. I have a question, I believe, or a raised hand. You can just drop a question, Andrea, if you have a question, in the Q&A, and Maria can probably help. The next area is pay-per-click or PPC, and these are the paid ads. We also did a PPC webinar, so if you want to learn all about this, we have an hour of content all about pay-per-click. And the map pack, the 3-pack it's called, or GMB. Google calls the Maps function Google My Business. You register your business there, and surprisingly enough, we have a whole webinar all about GMB. But today we're here to talk about the organic or the SEO. So, in the same search, if you scrolled down the page, there's the Google screen, the pay-per-click, the maps, and then 10 results. Again, this is real small because we're scrolling down the screen either on a desktop or a phone. The screen looks the same today, whether you're on a desktop or a phone. And there's 10 factors, 10 results, 10 SEO, search engine optimization, free or organic. It's the same thing, but we either call it the free area or we call it organic because it comes up organically. You're not paying for it. And there's over 600 factors that contribute to whether, you come up for a search for like personal injury near me, or, best plumber, or what, buying a widget, iPhone case, or whatever the search is, those algorithmic factors are going to weigh into Google's mathematical determination of who best answers that query. And think of it like a question. A search query is a question. Essentially, you're asking a question of the search engine. Now, these 600 factors is probably like a PhD course. And in fact, the two Google founders were Stanford PhDs when they founded Google. But for our simplicity's sake today, we're going to try and do the ABCs in about an hour. And I'm going to simplify it down to architecture, backlinks, and content. So A, architecture, how your website's structured. B, backlinks, links from other site to your site. And these are not the links on your site. These are other links, other sites linking to you, activated, clickable, linkable clicks. And finally, the C is the content. How do you put the words, the pictures, the videos, the content on your website that people are looking for? Obviously, you have to have, if you want to be found for personal injury attorney near me, you've got to have the words personal injury and attorney, and you've got to have some signals to Google that you're close to the individual who's doing the search. Anyways, we'll get into all that in a lot more detail coming up. Couple examples. This is what you want to see. This is one of our clients coming up in the maps and the SEO. So they're coming up here in the 3-pack and the SEO. Another example, trust and estate litigator coming up in the maps and the SEO. So that's the kind of results we're looking at for search engine optimization. And we'll also get into some more advanced topics and the new algorithm changes. I love this one. We call it Google's BERT. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll also visit the Google Zoo. It's again a name I gave to it. And Google started changing their algorithm. And the first big algorithm change was called Panda. And it was actually named after Naveed Panda, who is the programmer, who is the lead on this new algorithm at Google. And we'll go through Panda and Penguin and Hummingbird and the new update I call Cheetah. So we'll get to that in the advanced section. But first, let's start with the architecture of the website. Now, if you do nothing else, these next two slides, if you're an attorney and you're not a SEO, a search engine optimization expert, there's two things I'd recommend. Super simple if you want to drill down architecture to the most simple. The first part of A is the site speed. And you can go to Google's Page Speed Insights, and that's where we pulled this query. And our client has a 79 score, pretty good. And then it gives you some information, the time to do the first paint, which is the first image of the website, the speed index, the largest content paint. I mean, there's a lot of factors to it. We won't get into the technical, but basically, if you're an attorney, you want to know your site's fast. Okay. The second thing is you want to know your site's mobile friendly. So we got a score from Google. This page is mobile friendly. You can just Google mobile friendly test, and Google offers this for free, the mobile friendly test. So, taken at its most simple, your website architecture, it should be fast and it should be mobile friendly. We're going to get into a lot more factors, but if you did nothing else, take from this, if you find out if your website's fast and if it's mobile friendly, you're going to, cover off some of the most important stuff with the architecture of your website. Some of the other things we look at, more sophisticated things like alt tags. When you hover over an image and a little box comes up, if we right click it, we can see you can add keyword phrases into the alt tags. The sitemap. So this is predominantly for consumers now, the sitemap. Like if I get lost on a site, I look for the sitemap, and typically there's a link at the bottom of the website. But in the old days, it's not as important today, but in the old days, Google would look for the sitemap, and the automated robots would follow the map to all the pages of the website. Then they would read all the pages on the website and read it electronically and read it into their index and their storage capability. And that's how you come up in Google searches, because you got the words that people are searching for. Next thing, the Search Console. So you're going to install, again, this is for your webmaster, not for you and me, the average website owner, but you want to make sure your webmaster's installed Search Console. And the Search Console can publish an XML sitemap, which is the more advanced. So I mentioned the old days, Google would come and look for your sitemap. Now you can actually push out your sitemap through XML, which is like a web language, to Google and to the other rest of the web. So you're saying, hey, here's my map, here's my new pages, here's my updated pages, here's my fast pages, here's my images, here's my videos. And you're also going to want Search Console because it gives you a lot of valuable diagnostic information. So it'll here's some errors on your website. So your webmaster should be in Search Console, probably every week or at least every month, looking for any errors or clues that Google gives you about how to improve your SEO. You want to add analytics to your website. And we did a whole other webinar all about analytics and performance measurement. But you want to add Google Analytics. It's free and it gives you a lot of data, like how many users came to the website, where they came from. This website got 91,000 users from organic search. We see how many pages, how many goals we got filled out from this website. But the analytics also gives you a lot of data and information about how your website's performing. Where are people coming from? Where are they leaving? What's the exit rate for pages? What's the bounce rate? Things like that. Pretty much standard today. Most websites, new websites built today, are built in WordPress. And if you have a custom website, your webmaster knows how to do this stuff. But if you have a WordPress website, you want to make sure you have an SEO plugin. We're using Yoast for most of our implementations, but there's a lot of these plugins. But basically what it'll do is it'll create some of the basic SEO components. Like when you create a blog post, it'll create those meta tag titles we talked about a little bit earlier. You want to make sure you have clean code. Now, clean code, again, we're getting into technical stuff, but these are questions to ask your webmaster. Basically, you don't want to have like 5,000 lines of code, and you don't want to have all the words, the keywords that you want Google to read below like 3,000 words of very complex code that loads things and spins things. You want to have nice clean code at the top with your title, your description, your keywords, your meta tags, your H1, which is your header tag. You want to have all that information at the top of the code. You don't want to have what we call bloated code with tons of convoluted information for the web automated web spiders to read. You want to have a meta tags title for every page. So our title is Internet Marketing Consultant, Online Advertising, Web Marketing and Consulting. And you can see this when you right click on a page and view the page source. Internal links. So one of the advanced things we're doing is we're building a lot of FAQs, frequently asked question content hubs, where we're linking all the pages together and we're answering questions, and then we're linking to the pages that answer those questions in more detail. You want to make sure you don't have any broken links. So this is also going to come out of Search Console. And you want to make sure you have a 404 error page. This is a really funny one. One of our development team must be punished for this failure. Pick who to fire. Luke, you're fired. So it's like an actually interactive error page. Here's another cute one. Oh, hey, this is awkward. So having a 404 error page, it helps with your architecture. And this is a more advanced thing. It's called schema markup. So these groups got together, Google and Microsoft and Yahoo, and they created some code that's basically a vocabulary for webmaster to develop things like location schema. So this kind of information can come up in a search. There's a schema for blogs and simplified blogs, and there's about 14 or 15 or 16 now different schema. So again, not for me and you, but for your webmaster. So to sum up the first section, A equals architecture. Your page speed, you want your if nothing else, you want to check your page speed, make sure your website and your mobile website are fast, and run the mobile test. Again, there's a free Google mobile test. You can find out if your website is mobile friendly, because obviously that's critical for the consumer. And basically Google's algorithm is built around anything that's important for the consumer. So anything that makes life easier for the consumer, like your website renders quickly on a mobile site, is going to weigh into those 600 factors in Google's mathematical algorithm. But simplifying it down for me and you, if your website works on a cell phone, then it's going to gain points in Google's mathematical algorithm. If it doesn't work on a cell phone, you got to fix your website, because we're seeing, like in particular for a lot of the personal injury law firms, something like 60% of the traffic is now coming from cell phones. So you don't want to offend 60% of the folks, or you don't want to be slow and your website doesn't render properly on a cell phone, and 60% are going to leave. They're going to hit the back button and go back where they came from. Search console and analytics. So uploading Search console, making sure your webmaster is in there, looking for the errors, looking for tips. Google will basically give you tips to improve your SEO. You want to have Google Analytics, so you know how your website's performing, where are people exiting. It'll give you some clues on problems with your website. Nice clean code. You don't want to have a high text to code ratio. So you don't want to have like 6,000 lines of code. That's what we call bloated code. Obviously if your website's like, solving DNA searches or something, and it's very complex, it needs a lot of code. But if it's a website that is for a personal injury law firm, or for a securities law firm like we looked at, you don't need 6,000 lines of code per page. Things like meta tags, titles, headers. The H1 header tag is simply the title of the page. So you want, like we saw for 10 golden rules, our title tag was about internet marketing. Our header tag should have the title of the page should be about internet marketing for law firms. And if we have an image tag, I showed you the alt tag. If we have an image, you can tag the image. You want to do that for readability for people who are vision impaired. It gives you an opportunity to add words to your Google SEO. And finally, an advanced strategy is adding schema code. And again, that's for your webmaster, not for the average website owner. All right, the next B, obviously in the ABCs, A is architecture, B is backlinks. And this is often misunderstood. A lot of people say, oh, we have lots of links on our website. But that doesn't really help. As a matter of fact, it might hurt a little bit. If all your website does is link everywhere, you're sending people off your website. The strategy here is to get other websites to link to your websites. You want other people to link to you. Here's an example for our client, Scott Silver. You click here on the Cornell University Law School site, and there's a link to Scott's website. So why is that valuable? Well, it's a link from a popular website and a .edu, a university, a very respected link in Google's eyes, very hard to get, right? You're not just, you can't just create a, like a blog about your jogging and link to yourself, like that's not a respected website. But if you get a link from a .edu and from a law school, and you're a lawyer, you're sending a lot of positive signals in that mathematical algorithm to Google. So why are backlinks important? I just want to explain for 1 minute. When Google created Google, when these two young guys, Stanford PhDs, created Google, there was already 19 search engines in existence. So why did Google become Google and Ask Jeeves became, a novelty search engine? And the reason for that predominantly is the backlink strategy and the backlink philosophy they came up with. Because the other 19 search engines could read the entire web and give you a list of all the websites that matched your read or your query. So let's say you said, I want to find an internet marketing firm for lawyers. Obviously, a little self-serving search, but you search internet marketing agency for lawyers. All the 19 search engines could read the entire web and find any website that had the words internet and marketing and agency and lawyers, right? So they could display all of those websites. The difference between Google and the other 19 search engines is they came up with a mathematical algorithm to figure out who should be on page 1 and who should be on page 1000. And essentially what they came up with was from academia. If you write a paper and lots of other academics link to your research paper and say, this guy has the ultimate research on this topic, and you get what are called citations from other papers, then you become more prominent and your paper becomes more respected in the academic circles. So they said, why don't we do the same thing with websites? If lots of other websites link to your website, then your website, it must be the most important. It must be the most valuable. There must be a reason that all these other webmasters took the time to actually put www.10goldenrules.com on their website and link to the 10 Golden Rules website. Like maybe we wrote an article about SEO and someone took the time to link to our website. So that backlink, a link from another website back to our website, is like a vote for our website. So without further ado, I just wanted to explain the concept behind backlinks is really what vaulted Google above everybody else. Because when you looked at the first page of Google, even 5 and 10 years ago, there was more likelihood that those pages would have some value. And when you looked at Ask Jeeves, it was just kind of like a random assortment of websites. So, that was the first step. Now, the second step, Google started saying, a backlink does not equal a backlink. So like the example I used earlier, the jogging blog doesn't equal the Cornell University Law School website, especially for a lawyer. So if you're a lawyer and you get a link from the Cornell University Law School website, that is a highly ranked backlink, highly valuable. It's a big vote for your website, check mark. It's from a law school, it's relevant, check mark. It's hard to get, check mark. And Google tracks that, links to your website, and that's a win for Ryan McCabe and Scott Silver. So think of backlinks like both in terms of quality and relevance, as I mentioned. And here's 10 golden rules. And here's a bunch of websites that link to 10 golden rules. And then this is another entity we created called the Internet Marketing Club. And the Internet Marketing Club links to 10 golden rules, but a bunch of internet marketing related websites link to the Internet Marketing Club. And we do internet marketing. And so we're building this link system that's telling Google that what we're about, and the more links and the higher quality of links, the more points and score we get in that mathematical algorithm. Now, the other thing that is often not misunderstood, but not really talked about in our industry, links build traffic. So building links to your website is great for SEO, but it's also going to build traffic to your website. So, here's one of our massive clients with a huge website, and referring sites sent 193,000 visits to their site. 1,873 other sites sent traffic to their site. And this chart is actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of websites look like that. But not to be misunderstood, when you get a link from the Cornell University Law School, when you get a link from all the law sites like FindLaw and Westlaw and Super Lawyers, not only do you get a link that's good for SEO, and that's the majority of what we talk about, they also get you clicks and traffic to your website. So think of that when you're doing your link building campaigns. So where do you get these valuable backlinks? So one of the best places is from clients and vendors. I have an expression that I share with my clients all the time. Write a check, get a link. So if you have a vendor, like this was our friend who was a client and a vendor, and we did printing with them, we got a link from their website to our website. And they do printing, which is somewhat linked to marketing, right? It's a good link. So you can leverage these relationships with people like vendors and folks you work with and people you have marketing partnerships with. Guest blogs and articles. I wrote an article for FeedFront, which is the affiliate industry publication, and I got a link back to my website. Here's a little strategy that's been very successful for us. It's called link bait curated lists. Essentially, you're going to bait people like the little bit of bait on a fish hook that's going to bait the fish. You want to bait other people to link to your website. So one of the things you can do is you can create a list. In this case, I created a list of the top 10 internet marketing trade shows, and I let the trade shows know, hey, you're on this list of the top 10 marketing trade shows, and about 4, 5, 6 of them link to that list to say, hey, we're on this list of the top marketing trade shows, listed alphabetically, of course. And then that page ranked very, very highly in the search engines. Industry associations, I touched on this earlier. For lawyers, things like Avo and FindLaw, very valuable links. Either you get a link or what's called a citation. By the way, a citation is valuable too, not as valuable as a backlink, but a citation is when someone lists your website or lists your company, but doesn't actively link to it. Google's smart enough now that if they see 10 golden rules internet marketing, and it doesn't say www.http://10goldenrules.com, if they just see the name 10 golden rules in internet marketing, they know that somebody's talking about us, and you get a few points in the algorithm. Not as good as a link, but that's what we call a citation. Link analysis. So this is an awesome result for my friend Jerry Parker's website. They've got a ranking of 184,000. So they're in the top 200,000 websites for their link sort of architecture. They've got a DR score, domain rank score of 63 out of 100, which is extremely valuable, extremely high. And there's over 5,000 domains linking to them with 190,000 backlinks. So one thing is important not to confuse. Backlinks are links from other websites to your website. Referring domains is how many individual websites link to your website. So in this case, some of the other websites linking to yourlawyer.com might have 10 or 20 or 30 references and links to that website. But what's really valuable is each individual website that links to your website, because 2 backlinks from the same site does not equal twice as much in Google's algorithm. I'm getting into the details here, but suffice to say, better to get 10 websites to link to you than 10 links from the same one website. Now, another thing is super valuable in this category is do not get bad links. Do not pay for links. It's against Google's terms of services. And a lot of times we do an analysis when a prospect comes to us and their SEO scores are going down and their traffic's going down and their leads are going down. They don't know what's happening. We look at their backlinks and we find a lot of scammy and skeevy websites linking to their website. Like, I don't know if this is a bad website, but it's a foreign website. I don't know what this website is, but they were linking to one of our clients. And basically irrelevant links. Obviously you don't want links from porn sites, casino sites, gambling sites, things like that. And a lot of times those websites will sell you a link from their website. And in the old days, before Google's Penguin algorithm update, it was all about the number of links. You just wanted to get 1,000 links to your website and you'd shoot up the search engine rankings. But today, Google analyzes that ever since that they released this Penguin update. And if you have links from bad websites, irrelevant websites, your score goes down, and you can even get blocked or banned from Google. And the last thought is social profiles. Here in Google, in our Google My Business, there's a link to our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So, Google is definitely recognizing social profiles if they're putting them in your Google Maps, Google My Business. And you definitely want to think of those as citations. Okay. We have a link from our LinkedIn to our website. Google's probably not treating that as like, a valuable link, because everybody links from LinkedIn to their website, but it's definitely part of the overall. Google's looking at things like your ratings on Facebook and things like that. So they're, we don't know for sure if that's in the algorithm, but if it's showing up in your Google My Business, if they're reporting it and publicly posting it, there's a very high likelihood that it's part of the algorithm. So again, backlinks. A is architecture, B is backlinks, other site linking to you. The best links are natural links. When you write great stuff on your website, you create great videos and checklists and authoritative articles, and other sites link to your site. You can get links from clients and vendors, associations. Now, paid directories is different than paying for links. So paying to be in FindLaw, Superlawyers, Avo, those Google might not treat those as a link, but they definitely treat them as expert citations. Free directories are good sometimes. Blogs, guest articles can work well, but be cautious. When you pay a blogger in the Ukraine to do a guest post on his blog, Google's probably paying him too. Literally, they have teams of people who go out and buy links, and they just quietly put it in their algorithm. Hey, we bought this link. This is a paid link. And then you get a paid link from that same blog. Google knows. I always say you can't fool Mother Nature. They're working on figuring these things out. So Linkbait is coming up with something really great on your website. Like, my partner wrote this great article. It's like 10 business books, my 10 favorite business books. And then he reached out to those 10 business authors and said, you can link to, you could link to this list, because I put you on this list of the 10 best business books, and 3 or 4 of them linked to him from super high powered sites. Social profiles valuable. Online press releases was a killer strategy. What I recommend in that area is, if you do a press release, do it when you have some at least decent news, like you become ranked as a super lawyer, or you hired a new attorney, or we're doing one now. One of our clients is opening a new location. What I recommend is use a different press release service every time. And when you have a legitimate press release, do a full-fledged wire release through the big wire services. And the last one is article syndication. So A is architecture, how your website's structured, how fast it is. B is backlinks, links from other sites to your site. And the final component of the ABCs is content. Great, authoritative, high-value content is going to move the needle forward on your SEO. And it's also going to mean that when people come to your website, if you're answering their search queries, again, I've mentioned this a few times, we're going to talk a lot about it now, is a search is essentially a question, right? Like, you don't do a search just for fun. I mean, although I guess sometimes we do, but 9 times out of 10, you're trying to answer a question, right? Like, what was the name of that band who sang that song, about whatever, right? And my wife and I are asking the question. We do the quick search and we answer the question. What do I do if I'm in a car accident in an Uber? You really want to know what to do, and you don't know. Like, do I need to hire a lawyer? Is my insurance company going to take care of it? What if the guy was an Uber driver? Am I protected? So literally people are asking questions. So think of your content as answering the questions that people are asking, because we search more and more today with we ask the question of Siri, so or Alexa or Google Voice, right? So your content should answer questions, and we'll talk about some strategies for that. So what is content? Well, it's articles on the website. In this case, it's a blog. A blog is just basically an article, and on your blog, it's typically the most recent blog goes on the top and pushes the older blogs down the page. And it's a super easy way to answer questions and add content to your website. What's a guideline? Well, this is like a super big website, 5,000 pages. If you want to know how many words are on the page, so one of the exercises we do, we look at what are the top ranking pages for a keyword we want to rank for, like car accident lawyer near me, and then we see who's on the top of the searches. We copy the words and we see how many words are on the page. So this is a perfect page because it's got 998 words on the page. Typically the guidelines, you want between 250 and 1,000 words on the page. And then we do a bunch of research, and we compile Google research, and we use a number of the subscriber tools we have, SEMrush and SpyFu and Ahrefs that we looked at earlier. We pull in all this data and we get information about, how many searches, how competitive those keywords are. And we build our search engine site architecture, a structure of which words we want to focus on which pages on the website. Now, one of your biggest assets when it comes to SEO is actually your receptionist, Mildred. And if you have a reception area, first of all, and you have a reception area that looks like this, Lord help you, but just for fun, let's pretend Mildred is our receptionist, or Mildred works in our intake department. And why is Mildred so valuable? Well, because we're going to give Mildred a clipboard, and we're going to say, Mildred, every time someone calls in and has a question, I want you to write down that question, because we want to start collecting questions that we get from our reception, our sales department, our intake department, our customer service department, our IT guys can pull things people are searching on our website. And essentially all the questions that our customers and prospects are asking, we want to answer those questions on our website, right? Basic stuff. So what you're going to do is you're going to collect as many questions as you can from all these different sources, and you're going to answer those questions in the form of blogs, articles, FAQs, frequently asked questions. We talked about the content hubs earlier, where we've got little hubs of answers to questions in subject matter areas, and we're going to link those throughout our website, so that we're essentially, we're search engine optimizing, right? It's a verb, search engine optimization. We're search engine optimizing our website for the questions that people are asking, and we're answering those questions. And the more valuable an answer you have, the more likelihood you have to come to the top of those Google searches. Here's a great tool called Answer the Public. Put in something like car accident lawyer. We see all these variants of car accident lawyer, and it gives us keyword phrases to add to our website, questions to ask and answer ourselves on the website. You can take data from your internal site search. There's amazing sites out there like Quora that ask and answer questions. And another thing we do is we'll look at our own website search engine rankings, and we'll see here on page 2. So there's 10 results on the first page of an SEO, but here's some phrases we rank for on page 2. So we're in position 13 for this client on what is securities fraud, direct lending investments, SEC investigation, are equity indexed annuities securities. I don't even know what that means. Are index securities index, are equity annuities securities indexed is probably the way someone would search that, right? Now, we're in position 13. We're on the second page. So what a great blog post to write, right? Like, ask the question, are index annuity securities or are equity securities indexed? And we ask and answer that question in the form of a blog post or a video. We do a ton of videos where we ask the attorneys, we give them a series of questions, they answer the question on video. We optimize the video for YouTube, we add the video to the website, we search engine optimize the page or the blog page where the video is resident. We add that page to Facebook and LinkedIn, and we even put that video out on the e-newsletter, so that we're asking and answering questions, first and foremost for SEO, secondly for consumers because we're answering their questions, and third, we're taking that content, and as I've talked about in many of my presentations, cascading it. We're using that content, that valuable content, in our social media, in our newsletter. We even add it to Google My Business, very super valuable. Your Google Maps is SEO. It's right there at the top of the search results. So think of your Google Maps, your Google My Business is also part of Google's algorithm. So what do? We need links. The links in Google My Business are reviews. We need content. The content is the updates or posts or events we add to Google My Business. Here's another one, stock market pump and dump. We're in position 14. And then you can also use some of these research tools and find out what are your competitors ranking for. Like here's a competitor ranking for securities fraud lawyer. So we're going to write a blog post or create a content hub around the phrase securities fraud lawyer, if that's a phrase that we're not on the first page for, but our competitors are on the first page. So we use this research. What are we ranking for on the second page? What are our competitors ranking for that we want to rank for? What are some of the questions in answer the public and Quora? And we create this content, and then we provide this list of content to our bloggers, to our copywriters, to our attorneys when they're answering questions, and we add this content to the website. So I know that's kind of like the advanced course. Here's the simple version. Answer a question every week. Answer it on a blog, answer it on a video, add it to your website. Your website will succeed if you're answering the questions that people are asking you all the time. So content, how do we do it? What's it all about? We build keyword lists, and then we create optimized content around the phrases that we want to rank for, that we're ranking for, but we're not on page one, that our competitors are ranking for, and we want to rank for. We use Google and several competitive research tools, and we're generally adding between 250 to 1,000 words on a page, plus we're adding videos, plus we're adding images. You know, we're building out really sophisticated pages, not for the sake of it, but you really want to, your goal is to have the best answer for every question on your website. All right, so that's the basic blocking and tackling, the ABCs. I'll sum it up for you in a minute. And now we're just going to touch on a few advanced SEO strategies, some of the things that are coming up over the last few weeks and months. The first one is understanding Google's algorithm changes. I just love BERT, but we'll talk about BERT in a minute. So, you know, what do I call the Google Zoo? Well, these are about, only a small percentage of all the Google algorithm updates that have been significant. Like they've really been game changers. And in our industry, we analyze these things. A lot of times Google will answer it or announce it in the form of a blog, or someone will talk about it at an industry and sort of give it a little bit of a name or give us a clue like, oh yeah, this is a core algorithm update. So the first one that we really talked about in the industry was Panda, and Panda was all about content and quality, site performance, still, you know, incredibly important, right? I've talked about it for the last 45 minutes. You know, high quality content on your website, being an authority that people will naturally link to, the architecture, making it easy to find the content on your website. So all of those things were built into Panda, and Panda actually was created by Google hired 3,000 people to go and review websites, and they went through a checklist of like 50 different questions on this questionnaire, and then they took all the answers and wrote a mathematical algorithm to determine what was valued by consumers on a website. And they said these are good websites that meet all these criteria, and these are bad websites that have, bad grammar, misspellings, not non-authoritative content. Penguin, I mentioned, was all about bad links. So paid links, bad links, not good. Pirate looked at copyright infringements. The exact match domain. So remember in the old days, you used to search for internet marketing company, and internetmarketingcompany.com came up number one. And internetmarketingcompany.com might have been a one-page website that was 5 years old and had no updated information. And they ranked number one because they had the exact match domain. Well, consumers complained about that, and they stopped. They would click on that site, they would see it was garbage, they would hit the back button. So Google stopped rewarding the exact match domain if it didn't have the other factors. If it didn't have good architecture, if it wasn't fast, easy to read, mobile friendly, if they didn't have a lot of backlinks, and they didn't have a lot of great content and fresh updated content, Google started saying, hey, even though you got the industry name, we're not linking to you if you don't have the ABCs. Hummingbird was an overall name for a search engine update, but there was a lot of speed factors in there. Social signals, Google started ranking for things like I showed earlier, like links from LinkedIn and tons of likes on Facebook. They don't necessarily admit it because those are other owned properties. Payday and porn got rid of spammy queries and a lot of malicious sites and sites that a lot of sites and industries get banned all the time, both in PPC and SEO, that are determined to be like sort of the skeevier side of things, like credit repair and things like that. We go through that. Mobile get-in was when they really put a lot of value in mobile in site speed and mobile friendliness. And RankBrain started bringing in some artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand semantics. I've talked about that a few different ways. So like for 10 golden rules, it used to be a problem when people would put in the number 10 golden rules, but now Google understands that 10, TEN, equals 10 equals 10. And then the most recent update is Web Core Vitals, really all about speed. There's 3 different factors in that, like the how quickly your website loads, the first load, and then the full load. And there's 3 different detailed factors for your webmaster, but for you and me, it's all about speed. What Google calls real world usage and paid load times, because what they've found is that page load times dramatically affects bounce rates, meaning if your website's slow to load, people bounce, they hit the back button, they bounce off your site. That's what bounce rate means. And real quick, just because he's cute, we'll talk about BERT, which was the bidirectional encoder representations from transformers update in Google. Basically a deep learning algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But according to BERT, this was a big update last year and impacted about 10% of the queries. But basically what it was saying write for humans, not for search engines. And BERT was trying to correct for a lot of the ways we search engine optimize websites, meaning like that's why I've talked a lot today about answering questions. And if you can legitimately collect all the questions that are the most frequently asked questions in your industry, and have your CEO, your attorneys, your product manager, your product specialists, your paralegals, your research guys, have all those folks answer the questions that you get asked most frequently. Recommend doing it on video, putting it on YouTube, optimizing for YouTube with names, titles, keywords, and a number of other things that we do on YouTube optimization, adding those videos to your website, writing a description of that video, getting the code on the page, and getting the question and the answer. So literally we title a lot of those blog posts and those videos with the question so that you get the question, like it's kind of like we're idiot proofing the search engine, right? We're saying like, what do I do if I'm in a car accident in an Uber? We literally write the question as the title of the blog or the video, and then give the answer and repeat the question in the copy. We're often asked more and more frequently, what happens if you're in a car accident in an Uber? or a lift, and you go on to answer that question. So you're literally putting the question in the answer, and you're writing for humans, not the search engines. So, Google's coming out with, many years ago, the Panda update, which was all about quality and page quality and authority. And then BERT is using, artificial intelligence essentially to do the same thing. Like, really, Google has told us from day one and continues to tell us, don't write for the search engine, write for humans. Create the best website that answers questions, that is valuable for the users, that becomes an industry authority, that everybody in the industry links to, because you have all the best content that answers all the questions, and you'll be rewarded in the search engines. Easy, right? If it was that easy, I wouldn't do this for a living, and thousands of other agencies wouldn't do this for a living. But hopefully this gives you a valuable guide onto some of these things. Couple other quick advanced things. One of the things we do for some clients who tend to get themselves in trouble is called reputation management. This was one of our clients who got tied up in something. He did nothing wrong, but he got a donation for a charity event, and it went sideways, and all the red stuff was bad. And over the last couple of years, we've cleaned up his reputation, got him a Wikipedia page, got him a website under his own name, and basically cleaned up his reputation. Here's another one called rich snippets, or what we're seeing now is people also ask. So the rich snippet is when you get like a whole answer to a question, and this links to a law firm. This is the example I've been using. What do I do if I get in a car accident in an Uber? Well, you can run a paid ad, or you can just answer the question really well on your website. And if Google determines that you have the absolute best answer to that question, you have a chance to get what we call a rich snippet, which is this little answer, which Google puts right there on the page. It's the first SEO result. Okay. It's right after the paid ads. And then you can also appear, and people also ask. And we're starting to see this more and more frequently. As a matter of fact, the rich snippets are going away, and we're seeing these people also ask on the search results. And essentially, if you click on this, it shows you one of these, and you get basically a whole little mini answer to the question, a snippet, a little chunk of code, typically about 45 words. So how do you get there? How do you get in this position? Well, number one, you got to have great SEO. Number two, you've got to have lots of links. You got to have great architecture. Like, websites that don't already get recognized by Google are not going to come up in the rich snippets. Like, more often than not, they come up in the SEO down below. But you can write snippable content into your questions and answers. You want to have like the blog schema that's super easy for Google to read. And you want to have like mobile schema, so it works in mobile. And basically the simple answer is answer a question in like 45 words right at the top of the Q&A. And that's going to give you the best chance, all the other component building blocks. But then if you just answer questions with a nice, simple paragraph that answers a question, and then go on to answer the question in more detail. But if you have the question as the title of the page, and you have the answer as a nice little snippable piece of content that Google can put on the snippet or in the people also ask, that's your best chance to get in this advanced space. So with that, let me just wrap up and then maybe take a few questions. The A in ABCs of SEO is architecture. You want nice, clean code, fast website, really do the mobile test, make sure your website's mobile friendly. Backlinks, other sites linking to your website. Focus on quality, focus on relevance, right? So you don't want, if you're a personal injury law firm, you don't want to link from a jogging website. I mean, it wouldn't be bad, but you definitely don't want to link from a Uzbekistan porn and casino website, okay? And you don't want to pay for that. So don't do the bad stuff, but as much as possible, create great content that people are naturally going to link to. And then maybe you could, encourage them a little bit. Like, we created a list of the top 10 business books, maybe create a list of the top 10 books about how to run a law firm, and ask those authors, hey, congratulations, I put you on a list of the top 10 lists of top 10 books about law firms, and maybe 3 or 4 of them will link to you. You get a link from an authoritative website, you get a highly ranked website linking to you, and you get a relevant website all about law firms and managing law firms. And finally, the C is content. I called the section Brief the Bloggers. Essentially what we do is a lot of research. We do the research using the research tools. We look at where we're ranking, but we're not on the first page. And we write blogs and content around those areas, create frequently asked questions and content hubs. And we also create videos and answer the questions that people are asking. So Brief the Bloggers, essentially what I'm saying is provide the content, provide the keyword phrases and the questions to the people writing the blog posts and the people answering the questions. Answer those questions. That's authentic and valuable content to add to your website. Last quick thoughts. If you feel like your website is going in the wrong direction, and we've had this a lot where if your SEO performance is going down in your analytics and your agency can't figure it out, we'd be happy to do a free SEO audit for you and answer any questions. So just give me a quick FU, which means follow up. Right? I used to joke in live presentations, write FU on the back of your business card, and I always got a good laugh. But FU means follow up, and I'll follow up with you. And I'll also, Maria, if you don't mind, maybe put the Calendly link in the chat. I'll do that as well. And then if you want to book an audit, you can just book some time on my calendar, and Calendly will actually set up a meeting for us, and it'll set up a Zoom for us, and it'll send you a calendar appointment at a convenient time. So we'll put that in the chat. And at this time, I'm happy to take any questions. So I'm just going to have a look over here in the Zoom backend, and you can put any chats in the there. Thank you, Maria. She put the Calendly in there, and if you just click that, you can book some time on my calendar. And so you can either use the chat or the Q&A function to ask questions. And I've got a couple coming in from online as well. Okay, so the first question, what are the best ways to find keywords for my website? So, I talked about a few of them. The first one is keyword research. So we use a few different tools. We use SEMrush, SpyFu, Ahrefs, and then we also use some of the questions that are coming in. So we work real hard with our clients to create, like, literally put that clipboard with reception with your intake department and capture the questions that are coming in, not digitally, but in the real world on the phone, and capture those questions, and then turn those questions into the keywords that you're going to blog about and add to your website. And then you can use some of those SEO tools, and there's dozens. There's like Raven and SEO Moz. Your webmaster can use those tools to quantify the keywords, to tell you how frequently they're searched, and obviously Google, how frequently they're searched and how competitive those keywords are, and add that to your website. Okay. Next one. How long will it be until we get SEO results? Well, that's the $1 million question that everybody's asked, right? And typically, I always like to say it's going to take 3 to 6 months to start to see SEO results. SEO is more of a long-term game. And like if we start with a brand new, actually, we did start with a brand new law firm that's really going big, and they're opening 3 locations. We opened 3 Google My Business. We opened 3 Google Screen, the local service ads. We built a brand new website. Um, it's probably going to take 3 to 6 months till we start getting some traction, but we've already started getting leads from Google My Business, leads from Google Screen, and we started a pay-per-click campaign because the paid ads are going to happen right away. The SEO is taking a little bit of time, but thank goodness we got a little bit of traction right out of the gate. We're already ranking for like 13 different phrases, which is not gonna make anyone rich, but generally, if the website's built the right way, and it's all of the ABCs are covered off, and we start building links to the website, the SEO is going to come. But really, you need you're going to have a couple hundred phrases until you're really getting 10, 20 leads a month. That's going to help a law firm or any business, frankly, generate a lot of business. A question from Mark. Nice to see you, Mark. Do you complement articles with videos that answer the key questions? That's a great question. And typically we start with a video in our model. So we ask the lawyer to reserve about a half an hour for rehearsal and about an hour for a video shoot. The most important thing in that video shoot, by the way, is the audio, because if it could look like just a guy sitting in his office, but if you can't hear it, you're not going to listen. You're gonna leave. But it doesn't have to look that great. But if a guy's an authority who's answering a question you want to hear the answer to, you got to hear it clearly. So we put a lavalier mic and we answer those questions. So typically we build an article around the video, but to Mark's question, can we complement articles with videos that answer the questions? Absolutely. So now what we're doing is we're going back to some of our pages that are maybe ranking on page 2 or page 3 for a phrase, and we're adding these Q&A videos to those pages, and we're essentially complementing those pages with video, because Google is now rewarding SEO with all different kinds of content. So we're creating longer pages that are authority pages that are the best answer in the world to that question, and we're using video to answer that question. We're using pictures, diagrams, checklists, infographics to authentically answer the question. So I would say that if video is going to help answer the question, absolutely. Shoot a quick video, put it on YouTube, embed it on the website, and that's going to work great. Twila, I apologize for bad pronunciation. How do you get rid of bad backlinks? That's a great question. So the short answer is you disavow the backlinks in Search Console. The long answer is in the old days, you had to actually go through an exercise where you ask all the other websites to unsubscribe, and you had to unlink you to take the link off their website, and you had to show Google that you had made numerous attempts to contact the webmaster at those websites to get them to unlink you. Because in the past, a lot of people had gone out and bought those links, or had requested those links. And old SEO, remember I said in the early days, it was all about how many links you had. So your old SEO company used to go out and get you links, buy you links. Well, today, there's a tool now in Google where you can disavow the bad links. But what we recommend is that still go through the exercise where you do the ranking. There's a number of tools that will score those links. And then again, this is mostly for a webmaster, someone familiar with SEO. Obviously, we can help you with that. And you look for the bad links, and you could even look for the domain authority, the sites that have poor domain authority, and obviously sites that are completely irrelevant from different countries and different industries, and then ask those folks to unlink you by, typically you're going to contact the webmaster on the website or by email. And then after you go through the exercise, maybe you get half of them by requesting the delinking, and then you can disavow through Google's tool. Thanks, Mark. Says great answer. Um, I, I'm just trying to keep up here. What are the metrics that we need to monitor to understand if our SEO is delivering results? Another great question. Thanks for that one, Carol. Um, so the key metrics, a lot of people look at search results and they get really hung up, like, and frankly, to a fault, so many of my clients like search one phrase over and over, and they tell me like, hey, we're not ranking for this phrase. Well, there's actually a reason you don't see it on your computer, because if you rank that phrase, if you search that phrase like 20 times and don't click to your website, Google's going to stop showing you your website, because they do what's called personalized search. They actually track your computer, your unique device ID, and if you don't click on the search results they give you, they're going to show you other search results. They're trying to make your search successful. And like if I search internet marketing company and 10 golden rules comes up 10 times and I don't click on it 10 times, they're going to stop showing it. So it's not about just the search results. The key things that we look for is in Google Analytics. If you guys remember, I showed you a chart that showed Google Analytics traffic, and the top traffic source was organic traffic. So you actually want to see how much traffic you get from search engine optimization. The next source is often direct, people typing in your URL or clicking on a link on an email. And then the next source might be referral, which means clicking on a link from another website, a referring website, someone like an Avo or a FindLaw or Wikipedia. And then the next source might be pay-per-click, depending how much you're spending. And then there might be a few other miscellaneous sources. But the key thing is how much traffic in analytics are you getting from SEO? So it's not about whether you rank or not. It's about whether you rank and people click it and they come to your website and they take a conversion action, right? So the key metrics are, do you rank? Do they click? Do you get the traffic, the unique users to your website as measured by Google Analytics? Do you get the conversions? A conversion is a click, a call, or a chat. So typically those are the three main things we're measuring on a website as a conversion or a goal in Google lingo. But what do we care about? A lead is someone calls. That's the best one. Typically calls convert much better than form fills. We always recommend adding the chat function to your website and then a form fill in that order. We want calls, chats, and forms. And your SEO is measured by one important metric, and that's how many of those leads do you convert to cases, signed customers, sales, whatever metric you offer as a business. Obviously, most law firms are signing up clients. On our website, a conversion is a lead, is a call, a form, or a chat. And ultimately, I'm measuring signed clients, but I'm also, we might sell our book on our website. So that might be an e-commerce conversion. So you could have multiple conversions that you're looking at on your site, but essentially, really when we talk to lawyers and professional services, for the most part, it's about leads and signed clients. Those are the metrics. And so we want to measure that back to SEO. We want to measure it back to PPC. We want to measure it back to referral sources. How many of the different sources convert to a lead, convert to a signed client? I got a couple more here. How are we doing on time? Pretty good. How do we stay up to date on industry changes and Google updates? Well, you're obviously, if you stayed over an hour into this webinar, you've got it figured out. You listen to podcasts and webinars and experts in the industry, the subject matter you want to learn about. You also there's some great blogs. In particular, Google has multiple blogs, and they have blogs about search engine. They have blogs for developers, and that's where they leak a lot of these things, like, hey, you guys might see some changes coming up in your search results. And then, we've released a pretty significant update to the search engine. And then, one of the Google representatives will speak on a webinar or something. Yeah, we call it BERT for short. It's the bidirectional encoding, blah blah blah. And then we give it a name as in the industry when Google leaks out a little bit more information. Those are some good ways I stay up to date. Personally, I'm an auditory learner, so I love ebooks and podcast, audiobooks and podcasts is my favorite. And there's some great search podcasts. Answering questions, Mark again. Answering questions appears to be a constant theme. Does an FAQ effort serve as a good lead magnet, or what does? Yeah, I mean, both a literal and a figurative FAQ effort is highly recommended. So literal means you'd have frequently asked questions as one of the navigation on your website. You click that, it would go to a page with frequently asked questions. And maybe your 10 most frequently asked questions are your 10 most valuable questions. Those are the 10 questions that your prospects ask and the 10 questions that generally lead to a signed client in a practice area that you want. And of course, I use the law reference because most of our focus these days is helping out law firms, but it's the same in every industry, right? One of our clients, a friend of mine, launched an airline, same thing. Where do you fly? Their most frequently asked questions. Where do you fly to? Do you fly to the private airports? How much does it cost? Do you clean the planes down for COVID? So if you answer those frequently asked questions in the 10 first most frequently asked questions, the questions that are going to yield client opportunities, those are the best frequently asked questions to answer. And then, so that's the literal. And then the figurative is, yeah, you want to answer questions throughout the website. You want to answer questions in the form of videos on your YouTube. You want to answer questions on the blog. You want to answer questions in the newsletter, because essentially that's the most valuable content you can provide to prospects is if they have questions about your product and your services. If you answer the questions and you're like, okay, I get it. Here's a really good case study. One of my clients, you saw his website earlier. He doesn't like me to mention his name because he doesn't want his competitors to know what's working really well. But he shot a bunch of videos, and he had like 10 videos on his website. So he said, hey, what else can I do to improve SEO? And we said, well, it'd be great if you wrote a blog post. We're writing one a week. If you wrote one a week, that'd be awesome. He's like, I'll write one a day. And he started writing a blog post or two every morning before he went to the gym. And we'd search engine optimize those and add them to the blog and the website. Then he said, what else can we do? We said, well, you did those 10 videos. Let's do 10 more videos. He said, what if we do 50? We're like, great. I mean, if you got the energy and the wherewithal to prep 50 answers to 50 questions. So we shot 50 videos. Then he said, let's do another 50 of those explainer videos. We did those little animated videos. Then he basically built a little mini studio in his boardroom, with an iPod and a lavalier mic, and and had his assistant, shoot the videos, send them over to us, answer the questions. He's probably got about 500 videos now. So, the more, and his SEO looks like this, his leads looks like this, his business looks like this, really awesome hockey stick, I call it, because I'm a Canadian. The business graph where the blade goes like this and then everything takes off. We love the hockey stick. So those 500 Q&As have dramatically impacted his business. So, Mark, to answer your question in a long rounded way, the question was, does an FAQ effort serve as a good lead magnet, and what does? Absolutely. Answering questions is great for the search engines. It converts customers. And here's the punchline. So this client, John, calls me up multiple times and says, I just want to thank you again, Jay, for getting me to do all those videos, because when I was coming home from softball, again, a great prospect called me up, and she's going to sign on this week. And she said, I watched 7 or 8 of your videos, and I knew you were the right guy for me. So this is the ultimate payoff to answering questions. Prospects are going to, they're going to find your website because you're answering questions and you've got the modern SEO, right? Essentially, SEO searches are queries. They're asking questions. We all ask questions when we do searches. If your website answers those questions in the form of blogs, articles, videos, FAQs, content hubs, infographics, on and on and on, all the things we talked about today, if you answer questions, you're going to prove, you're going to authenticate yourself as the solution to the query that they have. And whether they want to find out, the best iPhone case or the best, microphone for Zoom meetings, or the best personal injury attorney when I get hit by an Uber, if you answer the questions and they watch, they read 3 or 4 of your blogs, if they're readers, if they watch 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 of your videos, and they decide, literally your video, you can look them in the eye and answer their questions, and they decide you're the right attorney or, manufacturer for them, you win. So essentially at the end of the day, that's the best lead magnet. And that's about it. There's a couple other questions here, but I'll get back to some of you folks by social media and email and whatnot. And I want to thank you all for being with me today. And again, if you're watching this sometime in the future, please go to my 10 Golden Rules or Jay Berkowitz. I'm Jay Berkowitz on Twitter and LinkedIn. And let me know if you enjoyed this in years future. I love the Back to the Future. I got a couple more messages. Valuable. Thank you. Great session. You're most welcome. So to all of you here today and all of you in the future, thanks so much for your time and attention. And if we can help with your SEO, get in touch, go to 10 Golden Rules, or find me, Jay Berkowitz, on all the social media. And I look forward to meeting many of you at conferences and whatnot in the future.